more open cars announced they are entering the 2025 Daytona 500. But as we enter this new NASCAR season, what are 4 race car drivers that you should be watching in the entirety of the season? Let's break it all down. Hello everybody, welcome to Dirty Air. I'm your host Alex Lambert, and as it is right now, we are 27 days away from the start of the 2025 season, the Daytona 500, the Great American Race. Certainly excited for that. We'll talk about some open entries that are going to be entering that race, at least 7 confirmed, and probably at least 2 more that we know of will join the race. That would be 9 open entries into the Daytona 500, but also want to take a look into the NASCAR season at what really 4 drivers that I picked out today. There are probably a couple more I could have brought up as well that we can discuss, and really ones that going into this year I want to watch for the entirety of the season. So a couple of drivers that I think are going to be really important to watch going into this new NASCAR season. We'll break all that down. Let's go ahead and get into it. Let's start out with those Daytona 500 open entries, because these have been sort of slowly been getting announced throughout the off season, right, or the last 3 or 4 weeks or so. And let's just take a look at every one of them, right? So we'll start with car numbers. So right, the Junior Motorsports number 40 car, Justin Allgaier will be attempting the Daytona 500. Obviously, that's exciting. Chris Stapleton as a sponsor. J.J. Yaley for New York Racing, number 44. Once again, he will be re-entering the Daytona 500, trying to enter the Daytona 500 this upcoming season. You have Martin Truex Jr., right? One last ride, at least for the short term, will be for the Tricon number 56, right? So that's cool. Cole Pearn will also be crew chiefing the driver of the 56 machine. Martin Truex Jr., kind of a final ride for him, right? I mean, doing potentially his last Cup race in the near future. Anthony Alfredo for Beard Motorsports, 62 car. Once again, Anthony Alfredo will be attempting the Daytona 500. Again, BJ McLeod for his own team, Live Fast Motorsports, obviously the 78 car, still having that number, has moved back from a part-time team after the 2023 season, was part-time last year. Had some fast lap times at Talladega, run up front at Talladega in the spring actually, so he can run with the pack. Ran well in the dual races a year ago, so BJ McLeod could very well make the Daytona 500 with the speed that he puts into his super speedway packages. Don't see why that would have declined exponentially over the last year. Jimmy Johnson for Legacy Motor Club, the number 84. Once again, we talk about the pressure of him making the Daytona 500. He talked about last year when he was not guaranteed in after qualifying, had to race his way in the dual races, how stressful that was and how disappointed he would have been if he had missed the Daytona 500. Jimmy Johnson, right? And then, of course, we have Helio Castroneves for the Trackhouse 91. Once again, that 91 team will be allowing Helio Castroneves to race, to attempt to race his way into the Daytona 500. So once again, 36 chartered entry spots, so 36 guaranteed spots into this Daytona 500. So we already know those 36 drivers that will be in the Great American Race. And then we have at least right now 7 open cars. It looks like Garage 66, which is rebranded MBM Motorsports. And then, of course, Rick Ware Racing will probably be announcing a Daytona 500 entry at some point as well. We just don't know the drivers yet, right? And, of course, we had the whole Mike Wallace incident. But we do expect at least 9 Daytona 500 open entries. Once again, you have the 36 chartered teams, 40 total spots. So you have 4 open spots. Only 4 of these cars will make it into the Daytona 500. And there is a bit of a caveat to this. If Helio Castroneves, with the new OEP rule, if Helio Castroneves does not make it into the Daytona 500, he would be granted a 41st entry where he does not receive any reward payment or anything like that, depending on where he finishes. So that's if he doesn't make it. If he doesn't make it, he could take the 41st open provisional exception rule, and then he would be the 41st entry, right? So that's only if Helio does not make it in. No other drivers can receive that. So, of course, let's get into the 2025 NASCAR Cup season. Starts in Daytona in a couple of weeks. Really starts in the Clash in less than 2 weeks now, right? The Clash at Bowman Gray, certainly getting excited for that. That sort of has like an old school NASCAR feel. NASCAR's raced there before in the 50s. That's certainly exciting. We could look at that and look forward to that. And we could see some drivers that we're used to seeing up front excel and shine at that racetrack. But 4 drivers that I want to watch going into this 2025 season heavily, more heavily than others. I want to, a few honorable mentions. You got William Byron, strong at the beginning of the year, fades at the end of the year every season. I did a video on Kyle Busch already at the end of 2024 in December. I did a video on Chase Elliott a few weeks ago as well. So obviously, I feel free to please go check those out. There's a great analysis of those guys' seasons and what they could do going into 2025. But I want to focus on 4 different drivers today for this video, and I want to start out with Kyle Larson, obviously, right? Because Kyle Larson's the big name in motorsports right now. And I've been a bit critical of Kyle Larson. I don't like a lot of these mistakes Larson has made. I think Larson causes a little bit more chaos, and I think some of the fans, or at least the TV broadcast, recognizes. I think Kyle Larson makes a lot of mistakes that are not brought up enough, and that cost him and his team a lot of race wins and decent finishes. Kyle Larson, no reason, with the speed that car has, the speed Cliff Daniels puts into that race car week in and week out, and the talent that Kyle Larson has behind the wheel, they shouldn't have been in the Final Four in the 2024 season. They didn't make it. In my second driver, I want to kind of put these two together just because they're similar to me. Once again, Kyle Larson with 6 wins in 2024, a lot more than Denny Hamlin's 3. But Denny Hamlin also a bit disappointing. With the driver talent Denny Hamlin has, with the speed I see into the 11 car every week, both of these cars, Kyle Larson and Denny Hamlin, should be in the Final Four or potentially winning the championship. They should not be missing the Final Four. With the amount of speed they have and the amount of talent that these drivers have, I believe they should both be in the Final Four. If there's less chaos at the end of these races, I believe these drivers would have a few more wins in 2024. But once again, all about capitalizing at the big moment. And I think Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson both need to do a better job. Now, once again, Kyle Larson did really good, 6 wins in 2024. But with that car, with Cliff Daniels, what he's able to put into those race cars, with Kyle Larson's driver talent and how fast they were last year, 6 wins, missing the Final Four, really seems like that's not their peak. That doesn't seem to be as good as they could have done. They probably could have finished better in some point situations. Larson, big mistakes, messing up in the big moment, making mistakes, causing accidents, wrecking. You got to clean that stuff up. For Denny Hamlin, the mistakes are on track for sure, but the off-track mistakes are very frustrating as well from Toyota. That incident where Toyota cost Denny Hamlin a lot of extra points going into the playoffs with unbuilding or taking apart an engine without letting NASCAR review it first or look over that engine first, which is an obvious rule, was a disastrous mistake. You have to make sure there are multiple people in place. This is Joe Gibbs, TRD, Toyota. Everybody involved has to make sure that cannot happen, because that's very frustrating. You don't see that issue happening at any other race shop, especially Team Penske, which is obviously, they are currently on a 3-year championship run, going for their 4th straight championship. Team Penske is, obviously Logano in 2022, Blaney 2023, and then Joey Logano again in 2024. And that leads me into the driver that I want to put as the third one to watch. So once again, we have Kyle Larson, Denny Hamlin. They're great. They had a pretty good 2024 season. Larson did a really good job winning 6 races in 2024. With the driver talent, with the speed in that race car, I think that they should be dominant. I mean, I think we should be seeing maybe not quite 2021 level status from Larson, but closer to that, right? I think we should be seeing more domination out of Hamlin and Kyle Larson. That's what I mean by that. They're doing good. They're winning a lot of races, but not as many as they should be per talent, right? A lot of races they should have, could have won that they didn't, and it was given up to sort of an underdog type winner, which is why we had a large majority of winners this past season. Joey Logano is going to be my third driver to watch. Obviously, the 3-time NASCAR champion now. And when I talk about not clutch moments for guys like Denny Hamlin and Kyle Larson, this is where Joey Logano and Paul Wolfe, the crew chief, shine. In high-pressure situation, clutch moments, this is when the 22 team ultimately shines, and this is when they can get races won. Joey Logano has a lot of big race wins. 2015 Daytona 500, multiple NASCAR championships, 3 NASCAR championships. You go back to 2018, the big 3 and me. Logano shined at the right time, got momentum at the right moment, and won a NASCAR Cup Series championship. Joey Logano, I believe, is still going to be dangerous. I want to see what they can do in the regular season, though, because we look at the last couple of seasons. I really go back to early in the year at Atlanta, so this is the first half of 2023. Joey Logano wins at Atlanta and doesn't win another race the rest of the year, gets eliminated early in the playoffs. Something happened where they fell a little bit behind, right? Ultimately, Ryan Blaney did better, but Paul Wolfe, Joey Logano, they fell behind on speed. They could not get up there and win NASCAR Cup races for over a year, essentially over a calendar year, until Joey Logano sort of caught a break at Nashville with some chaos, was able to, I don't want to say luck, but a lot of things went his way to win at Nashville in 2024. I was in the grandstands for that event. It was a crazy race. Joey Logano capitalized. Paul Wolfe were able to capitalize, win that NASCAR Cup Series race. That put them in the playoffs, and then they gained that speed right back. That was the shot of momentum they needed. I think Joey Logano's back. I think they've got this car figured out, and I think they're going to be big in clutch moments. This starts in Daytona. I think when we go to Daytona, Joey Logano, is going to be that clutch guy. He's going to try to be running up front, try to win the Daytona 500. They can win in high pressure, big situations. I don't see a situation why Joey Logano and Team Penske couldn't win another NASCAR championship this upcoming season, especially if momentum's on Joey Logano's side. You give Joey Logano a lot of playoff points and a higher seed going into the playoffs. What can he do with that? Right? Certainly interesting to watch. We'll have to continue to watch that. And then there's one other driver. The fourth driver I want to talk about is a bit of a driver that I was disappointed in as well, because I thought he was going to be better in 2024, is Ty Gibbs. As far as winning races, has not won his first career race yet. Started racing in 2022, filling in for Kurt Busch at Joe Gibbs Racing. Raced, a little over a quarter of that NASCAR Cup Series season. Did a great job finishing races. Looked phenomenal. Did pretty good in 2023, but barely missed the playoffs. Was the first driver out, I believe. And then last year, 2024, made the NASCAR Cup Series playoffs, but was eliminated early. I think this could be a breakout year for Ty Gibbs. That's why I want to watch him, because I look at Ty Gibbs as a generational talent. I look at what he was able to do in the Xfinity Series, at other lower-level series. Won his first ever Xfinity race at the Daytona road course a few years ago. I want to watch Ty Gibbs and see what he's able to do. I see a lot of driver talent, raw talent from Ty Gibbs, right? He's been racing since he was young, grew up in a racing family. And I want to see what he's able to do in the 2025 season. He's not scared of other drivers. He's not afraid to rough people up a little bit, but he's also gotten way cleaner and smarter as a race car driver. But let's look at a few other guys, right? Kyle Larson. Took him a little bit of time to finally get that first race win, right? I believe it was his third season when he finally got the win at Michigan. Chase Elliott, when he finally got his win in his third season at Watkins Glen. This will be Ty Gibbs' third full-time season. I believe this is a year Ty Gibbs should start winning races. You know, making the playoffs one thing, but big wins is really where it matters most. I think you're going to see Ty Gibbs. I think there's a better chance, and I said this last year and I was proved wrong, but I'm going to say it again this year. I think there's a better chance you see Ty Gibbs win multiple races in 2025 than win no races. So we'll just put that out there, and that's how I want to leave that. But really, that's all there is to talk about. Wanted to break down those four drivers, talk a little bit about the open entries. Once again, 27 days away from the Daytona 500, obviously now less than 2 weeks away. So what would that be? 13 days away from the Clash at Bowman Grove. Certainly do a video on that. And of course, about all this information coming out and about Daytona coming up, let's get rowdy.